Hi guys, I'm going to talk about the second body paragraph of the student's work on the Keating article for the language analysis essay. So I've got that right here, and then I'm going to discuss how I'd mark it on the rubric. Okay, so let's zoom in, let's have a look. We've already looked at the introduction, we've already looked at body paragraph 1. Here's the next body paragraph. So I'm assuming that the student has chunked this, meaning they've broken it up into little segments so that the first argument on the article should be this topic sentence. The next chunk of the section should be here. Okay, let's read it together. Keating also attacks the logistics of the bill itself, reasoning that the safeguards and justifications for it will not hold. See, this is a clear argument that the student thinks that Keating is making in his article. So this is a really clear ADEEP. So this is A in the ADEEP structure. He attacks the logistics. I'm not sure about the word logistics itself. Logistics is like the management of how things move. So I'm not really sure, but it could be good. I just can't remember the article that well, but maybe that word is not great, but the rest of it is really good. Look at the formal language here. Attacks, it's good, so that's actually a persuasive technique, but it's an argument. Look at the reasoning, safeguards, justifications. Notice when you use the word starting with T-I-O-N, shons, then your language begins to become far more formal and academic. So go for the shons. You know, it's from the French, and we in English regard those French additions to English as being far more formal or sophisticated. So go for those. Keating also attacks the logistic of the bill itself, comma, this is good, reasoning that the safeguards and justifications for it will not hold. Okay, great. Great argument being stated. Keating claims, notice Keating and Keating starting both sentences. Try and mix it up a bit, but you know it's hard to avoid sometimes, but it's quite an obvious one. Keating claims, here's a good verb, Keating claims that the safeguards are an alarming aspect of the debate, and the faith that people have in these safeguards show an attitude of bald utopianism. Interesting. See, when the student is quoting, much like the paragraph above, they don't necessarily dive into analysis of those specific words used. They do a good job of analysing overall language and what the language does, but they don't talk about bald utopianism. Let's see in a minute what the student does, but that's what I want you to do. I want you to look at what does this specific language do. Okay, by dismissing the opposition as ludicrous and deluded, Keating further encourages the reader to see his position on assisted dying as the only logical viable one. Wow, this is really good. This is the purpose part. This is in the ADEEP structure. This is purpose. By dismissing the opposition as ludicrous, Keating further encourages the reader to see his position on assisted dying as the only logically viable one. It's fantastic, and the wording is great. Logically viable, assisted dying, position, encourages, ludicrous, deluded, dismissing. Like, there's a lot of good language in there. Appealing to the common empathy of the reader. Fantastic. The common empathy. Appeal to empathy. So this is a device named appealing to the common empathy, without just saying the device is appeal to empathy, which is a really clunky way to word it. This is a really fluent way to word it by mixing up that the phrasing of it. Appealing to the common empathy of the reader, Keating lists the people that the bill cannot guarantee protection for. Notice here we've got an appeal to empathy and listing But it doesn't say the devices are an appeal to empathy and listing. It doesn't do that in a clunky way. This is quite a fluent and fluid way. It's really nice. It's easy to read. What I would like is the list. If you're going to say there's a list there, then quote the list itself. Okay? If there's an appeal to empathy, quote where the appeal to empathy is. Because I don't know right now, on reading this, I don't know whether the student's just making this up or whether they're grounding this in a quote from a specific part of the text. Among those are the vulnerable and the poor. Okay, is that the list? I don't know. Is this the list here? Listing vulnerable and poor. Maybe it is, but here we go again. We've got this full stop, which should be a comma. Comma, among those are the vulnerable and the poor. By introducing a sense of concern for helpless Australian minorities, here we've got a preposition at the start, by, and I know this is an introductory clause before we get to the meat of the analysis. Next, Keating criminalizes. Fantastic, that's really good. But saying this is a reference back to what's been done beforehand by introducing a sense of concern for helpless Australian minorities. That's these guys, vulnerable and the poor. And then it goes on to analyze why it does that. Let's look. Keating criminalizes the stance of those supporting euthanasia and incites the reader to see their position as both sinister and uneducated. Far out. This is really good. This is fantastic. It is a discussion of argument. It is, rather than specific language use, it's kind of implying analysis of language, vulnerable and poor and guarantee protection, that kind of thing. So it could be better, but this is really good discussion of how the argument works for that particular readership. Notice here we've got in, that's a preposition, just like by. So I would expect coming up we've got a comma before the independent clause, before the meat of that analysis. In some places, there we go, good. In some places, Keating writes about the bill's supporters in a more aggressive tone, stating clearly that the bill's failure is preset by its design. This is kind of like a topic sentence in itself, isn't it? We've got this discussion of tone, which is good, and it'd be good to talk about tonal shift. But the bill's failure is preset by design. This is aggressive. This is a discussion of the aggressive tone, and that's a quote of it. Great work. By is a preposition as well. Okay, just so you know, we've got a comma coming up somewhere before the independent clause. By so transparently revealing his disdain for the legally assisted dying, maybe just leave it as legally assisted dying rather than the. Keating persuades the reader to hold no reservations when it comes to questioning and opposing euthanasia. Great, fantastic discussion of argument. However, what's the problem here? Keating persuades the reader. How does the student actually know that the reader has been persuaded? They cannot possibly know that, so you need to state it as Keating is trying to persuade the reader or seeks to persuade the reader. This hold no reservations, that's a metaphor. I don't really know what the student is saying in a literal sense. But to hold a reservation is a metaphorical, it's a grammatical metaphor. So can you be more specific? That's the feedback that I give to the student there. It's actually a really good language anyway. Preposition, opening again. In support of this idea is the article's image. Fantastic. I like that this student has put the image within a body paragraph, not a paragraph of its own. It's actually saying that the image argues the same argument as the topic sentence. Fantastic. Let's see what it says. A profile shot of Keating shrouded in shadows as he looks out over the cityscape with a grim yet bold expression This is simple description of what's in the picture. Fantastic. You can see that for yourself when you read that article. Portrays him as a fierce and powerful leader. Fantastic. So that's what the image does. Okay. Now here's some more analysis. The image, which likens him to images of warriors in battle or great thinkers of times gone by. Far out. Fantastic. This is a great, very heroic image, this student is saying. Portrays Keating as a strong and worthy adversary to the bill. Strong and worthy. So saying, what does this image do? Well, it portrays him as a strong and worthy adversary to the bill. Adversary means someone who is against that bill. Fantastic formal academic language again, adversary. His authority is asserted in this image, and therefore seeking to strengthen the reader's faith in his opinion. See here, this is all saying, this is the purpose part, a deep, this is the purpose. Why have an image like that? Well, it's seeking to strengthen the reader's faith in his opinion. Not only does he write well, but the image of him looks like a hero. It looks like a great thinker of times gone by. So it strengthens the reader's faith in his opinion. Really good analysis. Last thing, I'm expecting more kind of purpose stuff down here. Ultimately, it's a great way to start a sentence. Ultimately, comma, Keating combines these elements to convince the reader unequivocally that the opposition's viewpoint is ludicrous and flawed beyond reasonable doubt. I don't mind how the sentence starts, but really, unequivocally, that's a bit much. That's having no equal. That's what it means, having no equal. Does it actually convince the reader? How could the student possibly know that? They can't know that. Okay, so this is kind of over-analysing what the effect on the reader is. This really doesn't have a lot of connection to the image that's just come before it, but it does kind of round off the paragraph well. So you can see it's a really good paragraph, but there are some things to consider in there that aren't so great. Let's go up quickly. Let's have some discussion of this with the rubric. Let's see what it does. Articulation of contention and arguments. Does it clearly distinguish an argument? Students clearly distinguishes between contention and arguments and links them. Does it link it? That end part might do. Reasoning that the safeguards and justifications for it will not hold. That I'm not sure whether it links the contention and arguments, but here it's definitely that. It's definitely that. Really, it's really good. Topic sentences. Analysis of implicit values and worldviews. No, it doesn't do that. Analysis of the placement of the purpose of the argument. Let's see whether it does that. Also attacks the logistics of the bill itself. It doesn't really say when in the argument, when in the article the argument takes place or why it takes place there. Why argue this thing next? Okay, that's what I want that to do. Explain the argument with reference to. Yeah, it doesn't do that really. Does it talk about specific readership? It just talks about the reader. Okay, so it could do that a bit better. Let's look. Layout, image, and formatting. Images, formatting explained in terms of argument. Yes, it does that very well. Image, formatting, analyze in concert with other. Yes, it does this well. It says the image actually coincides with the language. Okay, positioning of image and formatting analyze for effect on development of argument. It doesn't say why the image. I think on this article, the image is up the top. It doesn't talk about the image being at the top. So that's what I want that to do. Okay? Discussion of arguments. Indicates order of arguments. It doesn't really do that. It takes reasoning behind. No. It kind of does this. And that's okay. The rest of the essay might do some higher order things, but this specific body paragraph just does this, I think. Analysis of effect. I think it does this quite well. It doesn't refer to a specific audience, but it does look at cumulative effects there. Okay, I think it's kind of up here somewhere. Interconnection of information. Here's the thing I think it's really strong in. Sentences are used to explain persuasive language. Sentences are used to analyze persuasive language. I think it analyzes well. Sentences follow a progression analysis. See here, I think it's kind of up here in this area. Introduction, use of specific meta language. Let's have a look at that. Devices are named. Yeah, it's got some names. Devices are labeled. Yeah. It's kind of like this. Like it doesn't need to name everything all the time, but that's okay. And that's higher order. Labeled accurately and fluently. It's good to do that, but does this analysis do that? I'm not sure whether it needs to do that, so that's why I think it kind of moves between here. So does it use in a deep structure analysis? Let's have a look. Let's have a look what it does. A, that's definitely an A there. Here's more discussion of argument. So a lot of it is discussion of argument, but it's got the image in there. It's got other language, so it's got like a deep thing going on. So here, use of a deep structure, multiple times within a paragraph. Yes. Working in concert. I think the image being discussed in concert with other language would do that, but does it do that? You have a look again to see whether the language actually mirrors the image. Let's have a look. Terminology. Highly accurate use. Yeah, this is really good. Informationally dense writing. It's kind of here or it's here. Alright. Last couple of things. Sentence structures. Although we've got a couple of issues with grammar and punctuation and things, we do have clauses combined to add nuance and detail. All those introductory clauses to set up what the analysis is going to be, really solid. Spelling and grammar, yeah. Present tense, yeah, it's up here, isn't it? It's all that. Hey guys, I hope that that was helpful for you. Please read it over again. Please read the essay over again to help you with your analysis. And make sure you ask me any questions that you have. Thanks, guys.